join kari paranti. Sumita, are you ready? Like,
I'm ready. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna tinta wale time deithle. Tinta wale ame aram kar de. Mane it's already 3:01. So good afternoon. Namaskar samastanku. CANOSA तरफरु ame eta gote nua initiative neichu. Jota ki I hope the speaker himself is non-Oriya, but he understands Oriya. But I'm not too sure if anybody non-Oriya is joining here, but at least I'll mix some both my speech little bit. Speech in the sense only 1 or 2 minutes I'll take. So it out a Nua prayers, it's a new thing.
Amit sir,
matters that affect our day-to-day life, jota ki day-to-day जीवन रे होची जम जीत भाई ना कले गुड़ा गुड़ा जिनस भी updated हे गलन जोटा कि हमें those who are from the old school को जो समय होउथिला हमर टाइम रे गोटे रकम जिनस होउतला आजिकली जिनस गुडे अलगा टाइप रे हे गलानी. So एई सब जिनिस पय हमें टाइम टू टाइम केते गुडे वेबिनार करिवु थैंक्स टू टेक्नोलॉजी जे जोटा कि एबे हम सुजोग देइची एई सब जिनिस जानिया पय हमगो इन पर्सन न बसिकी हम एई सब जिनिस घरे बसिकी जानि परिबा. डिसिजन इज आवर्स. CANOSA रा कोनोसी इंटरेस्ट नाही काहाकु माने इंटरेस्ट नाही इन द सेंस मे बी आई यूज द रॉन्ग वर्ड. CANOSA काहाकु एठी प्रमोट करू नाही कि काहाकु एठी ये करू नाही जे डिस्करेज करू नाही जे जी आसी जापाक जाओ. इट्स प्योरली आपणकर निजरा डिसिजन. इट्स प्योरली इंफॉर्मेशन सेशन. तो आपण एदरु जहाँ सुनिबे कि बुझिबे दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली लाइक आफ्टर एनी फॉलो अप एक्शन यू आर ओनली रेस्पोंसिबल. CANOSA एदरे किछि CANOSA की CANOSA मैनेजमेंट रे एदरे किछि करिवार नाही. Now, as far as our आजिकार guest Sumit Sen, तांको formally introduce करिबे हमर आजिकार जो host Srinivas Rao जी हमर जने board member. Yes, he formally करिबे, but goes back to Sumita. He is a CANOSA member, long standing member. तांको wife मेनाज भाउजो CANOSA board रे several times थिले. as a matter of fact जब CANOSA first register हला 2005 पर जतल मु vice president थिली सी सेही समय रे हमर secretary थिले भी. Then after that several times also मेनाज भाउजो CANOSA board रो board member रही आछंती. So Sumita is a member of CANOSA family from day one. Anyway, so आजी तांकर सीए इमिग्रेशन रे केते गुडे टॉपिक ऊपर आलोचना करिवे. द रूल हबो जे बेसिकली से कहि साला पर क्वेश्चन आंसर समस्तंकर सब क्वेश्चन उत्तर से देबा पे राजी अछंती. कि तबे गोटिए कथा होची पर्सनल क्वेश्चन किछि गुडे जोटा कि कॉन्फिडेंशियल हेता होय तो सेटा आलोचना नहि पारे. एटा 1 to 1 जदी केचे कर चाहती रो 1 to 1 हबो. अगेन मु वर्तमान श्रीनिवास को दउची. श्रीनिवास आज रो होस्ट करिवो प्रोग्राम टाकू. श्रीनिवास राव सोडावडम सी होचने हमर CANOSA रो गोटे जन बोर्ड मेंबर. हैंड ओवर करछि श्रीनिवास को. अप टू यू श्रीनिवास.
नमस्कार, धन्यवाद हैना. आज रो हमर वेबिनार होची इमिग्रेशन लॉ, करंट इमिग्रेशन लॉ विषय. हमें आपको डिवाइड करछु दी पार्ट रे. 1 आवर हबो हमर चीफ गेस्ट सुमित सेन, मिस्टर सुमित सेन तांकर प्रेजेंटेशन हबो. तांकर प्रेजेंटेशन सरला परे हमर गुडाय क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन रो. तो मु समस्त रिक्वेस्ट करूची कि प्लीज आप म्यूट रहंदु. आ जहाँ भी क्वेश्चन अच्छी आप प्लीज हमरो चैट बॉक्स रे सजेस्ट दियंदु. आमे थोरे प्रेजेंटेशन हमरो स्पीकर सरला परे हमें सब क्वेश्चंस रो आंसर दा पे हमें ट्राई करू थ्रू सुमित सेन. आउ किछि कारो किछि क्वेश्चन पचारियर अछि वाले भी प्लीज जूम रे ऑप्शन अछि कि रेज योर हैंड जा थ्रू हमें जानि परियो कि आपण किछि क्वेश्चन पचारियर इन चाहछन. आप समस्त जानते हैं कि मिस्टर सुमित सेन इज वन ऑफ आवर कम्युनिटी मेंबर, a famous barrister, solicitor और Canadian immigration lawyer. तांकर 25 वर्षर एक्सपीरियंस अछि हमर लीगल एक्सपर्ट इन इंटरनेशनल और रिफ्यूजी लॉ रे. Mr. Sumit Sen is a very good speaker, author, visiting professor. Apart from that, good consultant, good legal matter. Sumit Sen କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଆମର United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Geneva and worldwide. Apart from that, ତାଙ୍କେ ଗୁଡ଼ାଏ books ଆଉ international journals co-author କରୁଛନ୍ତି. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ Sumit Sen ଏବେ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି ଆମର ଟୋରଣ୍ଟୋରେ. ତାଙ୍କ ନିଜର boutique ଅଛି international firm ଯୋଉଟା କି is called as Sen Immigration Lawyers. ତାଙ୍କ specialization ହଉଛି କି business immigration, work permit, LMO based on immigration, ki corporate business immigration. Regarding any legal expert, he is specializing. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ control ଦେବି Sumit Sen କୁ. Sumit, thanks for joining our webinar. The control is given to you. Please go ahead, start your presentation. I would again request, please, everybody, keep yourself mute. Let our chief guest continue his presentation.
Okay, so I think I can see a first comment from Priyambak Tripathi. Thanks. I'll speak in English because, as I said, I'm part of the Odia family, but my wife is Odia, and I can see a lot of my old friends, Amit, Jyoti, there's Pradeep, Hitendra Paina, and many others. But I'll speak in English because my Odia is not the best. But I would like to sort of, go on so that everybody understands. Anybody who's not even fluent in Odia also can understand. So what I'm doing is I'll jump on to the presentation and I'll try and keep it for 30 to 40 minutes. I do not want to go on too long so that we can have more time for an interactive session. So what I'll do is I'll share my first screen. And I'll just give you a little overview of what I want to talk about. So that you have an idea as to how the presentation is going, what are the topics I'm going to cover. If you have anything else you want me to speak about or to raise a question about, I'm here to help you because our firm happens to be a full service immigration law firm. So this is the first share I'm going to do. If you can see on the screen, I'm going to talk about a few topics, all under the ambit of Canadian immigration law. I'll talk about LMI and work permit. This is very topical. This is a lot of people, a lot of our community members also coming through LMIs and work permits and ICTs, especially in IT, and the others are also coming in. Now, I'll tell you how it works, what I do, what we can do for you if you need my help. I'll also talk a little bit about business immigration. In brief, you may have friends who might want to be, who are looking to options to immigrate, because I do a lot of business immigration cases. The third general category is going to be permanent residence, which of course includes express entry, which is the pathway in the new scheme of things to immigration. What is a humanitarian and compassionate application? How do you do sponsorships? I do know that a lot of people want to know about the parental and the spousal sponsorship as well, and the provincial nomination programs. Of course, we all know about temporary visas like the visitor and the students. I do have, I've done these training sessions earlier, similar. So you can see that what I cover is usually done in about 8 to 10 weeks, and it's for a 40-hour program. But of course, we don't have so much time. So I'm going to run through things. I'll try and avoid the last two topics, Immigration and Refugee Board, because this is more the appellate matters at the Refugee Protection Division and Appeal. How does residency obligation goes? So if somebody has a question about a residency obligation, I'm willing to answer. What if the person or your parent or father has not been able to maintain residency? I'll be able to answer that. In the community, we don't usually need to go in for removals and enforcement, but I do appear for a lot of clients in these areas as well, at the federal court hearings, at the IRB. So these two are areas I can sort of generally touch on if you need my help. So let's just go on to the first topic of LMI and work permits. This is what immigration is all about now. So essentially what has happened is, over the past, I would say 5 years, Canada has been following the immigration system, which is done in the United States as well as also in Australia. there's been a big focus on bringing on people and who can come and study in Canada or people and eventually get a work permit. There are others who are who are coming in straight on work permits. It could be anybody. It could be IT professionals, like a lot of friends are in, in TCS and a lot of these companies. Also, you have a total of about 350,000 people on work permits in Canada at any time. There are about 400,000 students, and out of which about 140,000 are from India. So you have a body of 750,000 people in Canada who are in a temporary status, on a work permit status or a student status, right? Now, what happens to, how do they transcend into immigration? Because a lot of people want to do that. The government of Canada has now increased the quota to 400,000. Last year, because of COVID, they could not achieve that target. They only had got about 180,000 to immigrate because of the travel ban and everything else. So the focus has become like America. Let us see who are the people who are already inside Canada. In our time, many of us have immigrated in the early 19 in the end 90s and the early 2000s, and we all came in here without a job, without knowing what to do, and of course the community was extremely helpful, trying to build those contacts. So it was a difficult time for almost everybody. Anybody who came into the job was a little easier, but it was a challenge, right? If you all remember, the government of Canada has got that feedback that a lot of immigrants came very well qualified, bachelor's, master's degree, a lot of years of experience, but still come in here and are asked for what is called Canadian experience, if you remember that term. And they were asked to, like, show what do you know. And it was very hard when you came in at about mid 30s or 40s and you were asked any of these questions and you had a young family. It was difficult. So that feedback went back that a lot of immigrants are coming in and they're not able to settle down here. Some of them went back to their old jobs in India or in the Middle East, left their families here, and yet others struggled and eventually had to upgrade and eventually, became citizens of this country. So the government of Canada, what they did is they said we need to do what is called, and also if you remember, immigration was taking way too long. It was taking 5-7 years from some countries. Your lives can change in that time, right? 5-7 years is a long time. So they wanted to make it more responsive. They wanted to make it more responsive to the labor market needs of Canada. If you don't need salespeople, you don't bring in salespeople. If you don't need HR professionals, you don't need HR professionals. If you need tradespeople, if you need IT people, if you need space scientists, bring those people in. So it became, immigration used to be very far away from the actual labor needs on the ground. And slowly but surely, they started bringing that together. And now what's happened is immigration is now almost completely linked, I would say 100% linked to the employment needs of the country. Now, it could be who can come in right now. Because of this travel ban, nobody can come except Canadians can come, residents come, students are allowed to come in. But people who work in essential services, for example, in the agri-foods industry, in nursing, for example, in the healthcare, they are still being given visas to, come in. There's been a travel ban for almost a year now. And has it impacted our work? Of course, people are not able to come in. We have investor clients who are wanting to come over here and invest in businesses. They're not able to come in. So the government got that feedback in the late in the 2011s to about 14, and they actually stopped the intake of immigration for almost 3.5 years. And what they did is, and they came in with this new system called Express Entry, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But what they said is that we need you to fit into what we need in the country. Immigration is not charity. This government and the Canadian economy makes billions of dollars through immigration. There are about, at any time, there are 400,000 students in Canada. If they're averaging about $25,000 of fees and expenses, Canadian government is making $10 billion from students only. Imagine the value of work. Imagine the amount of money. So this is huge money. This is just not a little amount of money. Plus, they need to take care of the aging, population here. There is a situation where you had the baby boomers of the 1960s who are now retiring, and we are all in that thing. Who will be the new workforce? You need people. In long-term care, you hear about long-term care all the time right now because of COVID. You'll be surprised, out of the 625 long-term care, uh, like places all over Canada, I was told only 20% have one staff nurse. Only one. This is the kind of shortage. Imagine an entire long-term care facility is run by managers and persons support workers. That is also not enough. So there's a big shortage, big shortage everywhere, right? So the government said, okay, what do we do? Let's bring on people in certain areas where you can fast track people's work permits. Let's bring them on work permits here, let them work for a year, let them accumulate some experience, and let them understand Canada, let Canada understand them, and we'll help them to do the work permits. Now, so essentially, my firm does a lot of work in the areas of infrastructure, construction, mining, engineering, a little bit of IT as well, in transportation, hospitality, and now we also started doing in agri-foods. So we do a lot of work permits in that area. So there is a whole process as to how a work permit has to be approved. Now, a work permit is just not an offer of employment. It has to be an employment which has been validated by the government of Canada. And how does that work? It's called the Labor Market Impact Assessment, LMIA for short. It used to be earlier called LMO. In the old days, a labor market opinion, and you had something called a range employment opinion. This is somewhat, for those of you who've lived in America and who know the United States, there's something called a labor authorization there in the US. Our labor market impact assessment is much more intensive. It's much more, there's a lot of scrutiny. You need to advertise, you need to show what is the length of the advertising. You need to basically prove what is my effort, I as an employer, what have I done in order to try and recruit a Canadian resident or a citizen for this particular job that I'm offering. And have I done enough in order to hire people from Canada, or have I not been able to find? Now, what happens is, if you say I live in Toronto and I need a bookkeeper, and I advertise and I've not been able to find anybody, the government or the Service Canada would most likely not approve a case like that, because they'll say there are many bookkeepers, there are many people who've studied from Canada, who've done accounting, who may not even be a CPA or a CA, just people who have done accounting courses in colleges, in universities. Why don't you try and hire them? Because the government or Service Canada also has what is called labor market information, LMI. And that is it's a little dated always. It's almost like the census. The census is always dated. So they essentially they pick up their data from Statistics Canada, and they get the information about every profession, every job, every locality. For example, if you need a welder, and I have this client who is pretty big, who's a large welding operation in Oakville, and they make these truck body parts for Challenger and GFL and Ryder, all these big companies which you see on the 401. Every time you drive, you see these trucks, right? So they make the body parts, and they are not able to find welders. They have so much work. It's a 60-year-old company. They have so much work, and they have to refuse work because they don't have enough staff. So they need welders, pure and simple, welders who can do the job, right? So trades is something which is very big in shortage. So trades has become a large area where there's an immense shortage. If you want today to do some renovation in your house, you've seen how hard it is to get somebody to come and finish your basement. Oh, they are all backed up because they have more work than you and I do, somewhat, because there's such a big shortage. So the government came back and said, okay, let's do these LMIAs and let's help people get work permits. So this enables people to come in. So what constitutes in an LMIA is, you're basically, as an employer, it's an employer's application for potential employees. So we have this big company which does mushroom farming, and they need pickers. They can't find pickers because of this travel ban. People have not been able to come. They need 100 people to pick mushrooms and to box them. Easy job. It's a big operation. They're one of the biggest producers of mushroom, but they are not able to find people. When you grow, food, you need to pick them, box them, and picked up by supermarkets where we pick up the mushrooms for our homes. So if I tell you this is happening everywhere. In most areas, there is not enough people in this country to do it. So therefore, the government said, okay, you have this option. You do the LMIA, you set up the ads, you run the ads for 1 month, and you get the LMIs filed and approved. I won't go into details about what constitutes a job offer, what is a median wage, and all of that. That's usually, it's a little bit more technical. It'll take more time, and I'll never go through everything I have to speak about. So once you have a positive LMI, so an LMIA could be negative, could be neutral, or could be positive, right? So what is, negative means, I use an example of a bookkeeper. If you are trying to find a bookkeeper from here, and you're not able to find anybody, and you say, look, and the government says, we do not issue you an LMIA because it is you have not looked hard enough all across Canada, all across your region. A neutral opinion is really where the approval or the LMI or the opinion of the government will have a neutral effect on the labor market of the country. And a positive opinion means that, of course, there is a shortage and you need these people. All right. So once you have the LMIA, also remember, LMIA is an application of the employer, always for eventual foreign workers, which they may hire, may not hire, may find, may not find. It could be various things. LMIs are paid for by the employer always. All the costs associated with filing an LMI, the cost of advertising, the cost of LMI fees is paid always by the employer. That's the rule. So once you have an LMIA, and now you've found, let's say, this Oakville company example, which needs some welders, they're saying, okay, we found some welders from China or from the Middle East or from India, and we want to hire them. That's when you do the work permit applications for the foreign worker, and the foreign worker then comes in on a work permit, usually for 2 years and extendable. But those 2 years are pretty enough, because you are then, if you worked your 2 years or your 1 year minimum, you're now eligible to apply for areas of immigration. Now, remember one thing, there's something called, in law, there is something called dual intent. The immigration officer in a visa post overseas knows that a person may apply for immigration. That's a secondary intention, right? But the first intention is that they're applying for a work permit. If they feel at a certain point that the individual is only intending to apply for a work permit and only applying eventually to apply for immigration, they might get refused. So people would ask me, if I apply for a work permit, can I bring my family right away? In some jobs you can, if it is a highly skilled worker, top management or in specialized knowledge, you can. Other areas you should not do it, because this concept of dual intent can actually harm your case. So you apply first, you get your work permit, and let the family come in at a later date. Okay. So work permit application, again, has a lot of I could have shared a screen, but so one of the areas where you might want to look at, and I'll share all these links with, and I'll send it to Srinivasa, and he can then share it with everybody. This is the website of the Government of Canada, where it says hire a skilled worker to support their permanent residency. And it's got a lot of information. It's very holistic in terms of what you need and what you can do. So it's an overview, and you have the program requirements. I talked about the wages. You can talk about wages. This is what I talked about. You need to recruit. So the Government of Canada or Service Canada needs to know what is your recruitment efforts and what are your recruitment results. I've said that I've hired on, where did I advertise? I advertise in the job bank, stuff like that. And then you apply for the labor market impact assessment and you do your application. Going back to, sorry, where's my screen gone? One quick second. Sorry, I lost my own screen.
We still can see your screen,
See my screen? No, I'm trying to bring it back to the, just a minute.
Sure.
Oops, this is getting difficult. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Where it says work permit?
Yes, you just
Okay.
scroll work permit.
And now it says business immigration, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so I will jump to the next section because we'll run out of time otherwise. And I want to have more time for questions and answers. Business immigration is something which is something I do quite a lot as well. And a couple of them are the intra-company transfer. Now, some of you who are from the IT sector know about this pretty well. You may have come into the country on an ICT work permit. An ICT work permit essentially is where it's labor market exempt. So what happens is that every job, every work permit has to be labor market, like compliant. There are only certain areas where they allow intra-company transfers, where you are transferring from your parent, company to subsidiary of Canada. Example, you work for Cognizant in India and you are being transferred. You could do it under the ICT and you'll get a work permit. Now, this is a quicker way of doing it. Companies do not want to go into the LMIA, processing and all of that because it takes more time, it's more expensive. They usually have to hire lawyers to do it. Sometimes they don't want to do it. But this has implications for somebody who's coming on an ICT on their immigration files because you don't get enough points when you have an ICT file. So intra-company essentially is it is for people who are working for an overseas company, but you could have your own company. I mean, I've got clients who own their own companies. It could be in any sector, and they're coming into Canada to open a business here, and they're opening up their own enterprise, and they're coming in, and they're doing what is called an owner-operated LMIA. This is coming in for a change at the end of March, so there will be some requirements which will change. But once you've done the work permits, either on the LMI track or you've done the ICTs, you could, as a businessman, you could also apply for various types of provincial nomination. And I'll come to that a little later. Individuals can come in and they can file a PNP. Provincial nomination, like programs are all across Canada. Every province has got a quota for the number of individuals they can nominate. See, remember, immigration is a federal matter. It's not a provincial matter. Ontario or Alberta can nominate certain people under certain categories, right? It could be a farming category. It could be a PhD, category. It could be various things like that. So people who want to do a business over here, who want to invest money, who want to, let's say, buy a franchise, buy a gas station, buy a greenhouse or any of that kind of thing, can also, there are tracks open, just not for individual immigration, not just through ICTs, just not through work permits, but you could also, come in. There is various formats of this program. There are various requirements of these, and it's available on the website, on the business immigration, and we can have a look at it. But for the sake of the community, I think let's come back to the more pertinent ones, which a lot of us are here who have applied for immigration under the express entry. So express entry is essentially like the funnel, right? It is the funnel where this was the big change which I talked about when I started this presentation. Is from January of 2015, the government of Canada is looking through the files through express entry. Now it's no more like a queue. Earlier what used to happen is in the old days, you could apply for an immigration application at any visa post. So example, if you were working in Saudi Arabia, you would apply for an application in London or in Paris or in Delhi, right? So every embassy was accumulating files. And what happened is by 2007, there were over 900,000 files waiting at embassies across the world. and 25% of those files were in the Embassy of Canada in Delhi. 25%. It's huge backlogs. And you must have heard that it took 7 years. People were waiting 5 years. I applied from England, in 1990. I don't know, was 1998 or something, or 99. We have got our immigration in about 6 months, whereas friends of ours were waiting 4 years in Delhi. So it was happening like that. Now, this became a system which was not, of course, not addressing any labor market needs of Canada. It was not even, it was so long that people's lives has changed. So what they said is, okay, we'll do an express entry model where now the minister has the option of picking and choosing applications. So they can set a score. So you have what is called the CRS score, or a comprehensive ranking system. So if you make enough score, and in the next draw, or the express entry has these draws every 15 days. So in the next draw, if you get picked, then you send what is called an invitation to apply, an ITA, and when you have an ITA, you send in your entire file, and you can become an immigrant in about 6-8 months. That's fast. It is actually very fast if you get picked. The problem is people are not getting picked from overseas. And why is that happening? Because there are three, for individual immigration, there are three areas where you could immigrate. You have a federal skilled worker, which used to be in our time as well. They have a new one called federal skilled worker trades, for people in the trades, because you have a big shortage in Canada. And you have what is called CEC, the Canadian Experience Class. So for all those students who have come to Canada and studied and worked, and for all those people who have come to Canada and are working, and have worked at least for 1 year, you're eligible in that. So they created a new subcategory called CEC. And if you saw the last draw, they had a draw of 27,000 some people in the CEC class. This is the biggest draw ever. Every 15 days, they would draw 3,000 files, or send out invitations to apply to about 3,000 odd people. 5,000 was the max. This is the biggest draw ever, 27,000. And why is it being done is because last year, the Minister of Immigration, Mendicino, he said that we've not even achieved targets. They have targets to, like we all have targets on our work. They also have targets in order to, increase the population of Canada at least by 1%. And if you don't take in 35 to 40, 350,000 to 400,000 people every year, you are not making your target. So they realized that, okay, there are so many people inside Canada. There are students, there are workers, there are tradespeople, there are IT professionals, there are nurses, there's all kinds of people who are here. Why don't we get them to become immigrants? Because they're already here. And since people are not able to, come in from overseas. So there was a big draw, and a lot of people got their ITAs, and now they're filing for immigration. Okay. Now, what is again, like the business PNP, programs, you have various kinds of individual, PNP. Now, I think a lot of us are based out of Ontario. If you look at the Ontario's provincial nomination guides, you have about 6 of them for individuals. Then you have for business category. You have Ontario in-demand list for certain occupations have been classified. Somebody who's done a master's or a PhD in Ontario has got a preference. So last year, 2020, Ontario was given a quota of 17,000 nominations which they could do. And this is out of this big pot of 400,000. Remember, everything is within that pot. Parental immigration, spousal, economic class, non-economic class, refugees, everybody falls in that 400,000. So, because the target, as I said, is to increase the population of Canada by 1% every year, which is not happening through natural, like processes. Now, there are some discretionary applications which you can do, which is called the Humanitarian and Compassionate Applications. These are done under Article 25 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. So what is an agency application? How is it done? Forms and documentation is something we help people do. But essentially, what an agency application is where you're not able to fit in an application under any other category. What do you do? Example, you are trying very hard to sponsor your mother who's in India, and she's alone there. And a lot of immigrants have the same story. First generations always leave behind somebody. You might be the only son or the daughter, and unfortunately, your father has passed away and the mother is alone. And, and she can't come because you're not getting picked in those lotteries which are done for parental sponsorships, right? What do? You could do a agency application. Will you be approved all the time? No. Is there a chance of being approved? Yes. You need to illustrate as to what are the humanitarian and compassionate reasoning. Old age is not enough to say that they're old and I have to look after them. Every immigrant will have the same story. Every immigrant will say, I've got a parent who's old and who's now 70, 75, and they want to come, and you have to allow them to come. Humanitarian and compassionate cases will be approved. The thresholds are a little higher. So you have to understand that. And the thresholds can be, because a humanitarian and compassionate application can be used anywhere. It could be that, for example, um, give you an example of a case I had done a long time ago. There was this individual in Pakistan who was facing threat in Karachi, and he went into the Canadian embassy and sought refuge, and he was approved because he was in the Canadian embassy, and he was a reasonably high profile individual at that time. Now his daughter was studying in England, and she had gone back, and she was being held by the authorities, and they finally allowed her. But how could she now come to Canada? So this became a humanitarian and compassionate reasoning, and they approved that case. So this also can be a humanitarian and compassionate application. You can use humanitarian and compassionate reasoning anywhere in any application, so long as you can meet the threshold of this. Okay, so I have another 20 minutes, and I need to. I'll get on to spousal sponsorship, and I'll send you guys the links once we finish. I'll send it to Srinivasa, and he can circulate it to everybody. Now, of course, all of you know that you can sponsor. Who can you sponsor? There's an eligibility of who you can sponsor. Can you sponsor a sister and a brother? You cannot. You can in America, but you cannot in Canada. Can you sponsor a fiance? You cannot. She has to be a spouse, either a married spouse or a conjugal relationship or a common law partner. Who can you sponsor? You can sponsor a parent, and you can sponsor your siblings if they're under the age, if they're part of your parental application. You can do that. Now, remember, spousal applications are scrutinized pretty hard, because a spouse is the only person who you can sponsor and who you can change. You cannot change your father or your mother or your brothers and sisters. You can change your spouse. And people have used this route in order to make fake applications. What is called in law is called marriage of convenience. People have got married, have got divorced, got married again. You hear about all these funny stories, right? And they've tried to abuse the immigration system. So the immigration officer has got one rule, one thing which he needs to always look at is that, is this foreign national trying to acquire status in Canada and is causing an error in the administration of the act? This is what the law says. So if they feel that this is a not genuine application, this has been all set up. And you have these setups, you have these newspaper reports which you can find on the web, that there are 10 marriages in Punjab, and the people who are around, who are in the guest list, are always the same, and they're not relatives. So they have gone back and found marriages which are sham, and of course then the applications are refused, and you go in for appeals and all that kind of thing. But a straightforward application where it's a genuine spouse can be processed quite fast, 6 months, 8 months, and gets done, because it is a speed track application and they want to reunite families, right? Parental sponsorships, I know, is a big area where a lot of people have concern that I'm living in Canada, my spouse is working, we all pay taxes, we can't bring in our parents in order to live here with us when they're old. Now remember, all our parents, including my own parents who are no more, all our parents have not lived in Canada, have not contributed in Canada. And as we become older, our demands on the health system of Canada becomes high. And you know how expensive it is to go into a hospital. Each night in the hospital, I'm told, is about $4,000. Forget about surgeries and all are extremely expensive. We don't see it because it's funded out of our taxpayers' money, out of our tax money. So much that we feel very upset that the parental applications were 5,000, now it's 10,000, it's not enough. There's always a lottery. We don't know who's getting picked. We don't, all of that is happening. It's a very emotive issue, but from the perspective of Canada, it is a non-economic area. Your parents or our parents have not lived in Canada, have not contributed in this country, and therefore have no right really in order to claim and demand to live in Canada. Let's be honest about that. Okay, this is something people don't want to understand, but that is the reality. Canada needs immigrants who will contribute. Canada needs immigrants who are young, who will come and work for 30, 40 years in this country. Because as you know, there were, for every one person who was retired, there were 5 people working. And now it's come down to, I think, 1 in 3. And they're saying if we don't increase immigration, it's going to be 1 in 2 and 1 in 1 perhaps. And that is, detrimental to the economy of Canada. You cannot sustain a pension scheme and a healthcare system with less, without that average of at least 1 in 5. Out of the population of 36 million in Canada, 22 million work. So imagine this huge country, coast to coast, has only 22 million people working, which is the population of Delhi, I think. Yeah. So this is what it is, and so that is your parental sponsorships. I know it's tough to get in and all that kind of thing. Of course, we know about temporary residence. So I'll jump on to this temporary residence, which is visitor visas, which I'm sure all of you know pretty well. Student visas, of course, is very big. Canada realized and learned from Australia that students is actually huge business. It's a huge amount of business. It's a lot of money. The colleges flourish, the economy flourishes, and as I said, it's a huge number, and they really are potential immigrants. America is exactly that. A lot of the people who are now immigrants and American citizens have people who have come in to study in the universities and have done their masters and found a job and settled down. So that's student visas. I will skip removals and enforcement. Unless somebody has got an immigration matter and has been a refugee case and has got refused, or there's some kind of a specific immigration matter going on. There's something called pre-removal risk assessment. It's called PRA. I can talk about that. Every decision of these tribunals and these governments can be appealed at the federal court. There are certain timelines to file a leave of appeal. Where should it be filed? What is the processing time? Is something we can look at. Again, as I said, Immigration and Refugee Board has got 4 subsections, which deals with 4 areas. So you have the Refugee Protection Division. If somebody is fearing their life on the 5 reasons which is enumerated, or fears torture in their country, can apply for refugee protection from Canada. If their case is not approved, they can appeal at the RAD. You have the Immigration Appeal Division and the Immigration Division. Now, what is the difference between the two? Immigration appeal is when you do, let's say, a parental sponsorship application or a spousal application, and the immigration officer refuses, saying that, I think your marriage is a sham, and we refuse it. What do? You have to go in and appeal at the Immigration Appeal Division. So this is something you can do. Immigration Division has got other areas. So if somebody has been detained on an immigration matter, there is something called a detention review at the IRB, and it's a little like the bail hearing, where you have a surety and you have a bondsperson. You do all that. People will ask you, have asked me all the time about residency obligations. When the residency obligation, which has to be maintained by every resident of Canada, is 2 out of 5 years. Now, always remember, it's 2 out of a rolling 5 years, okay? It's not that you live here 2 years out of the first 5 and you leave and then you don't show up for the next 3 years. So on the date of entry, when you look back, you need to look at 5 years and you should have been a resident for 2 years. Okay, otherwise the immigration officer at the port of entry at Pearson can say that we revoke your immigration, which they cannot technically, because immigration can only be revoked by a judge and not by an immigration officer, or they will allow you to appeal. So those cases go into the immigration appeal division for residency obligation. If somebody has been if somebody has not given right information or has been given has been charged for misrepresentation or fraud, that's an inadmissibility matter that can be dealt with as well. Okay, so that's 50 the minutes. I've rushed through the entire presentations. I will stop here, and I think we can open up the floor for questions. I know I've covered a lot. As Amit and Srinivasa mentioned, that if you have questions of your own particular case, I would prefer to answer them separately, or if you want to make it a little non-personal, if you just want to ask me a situation, then I can answer it. But if it's a personal issue, it is reasons of confidentiality which we should not talk about in a public forum. That's not right. So you are always, you can find my contacts from Amit and from Srinivasa. I can give it to you as well, and we can then take on a one-to-one later. All right. So I'll give the floor back to Srinivasa, who's our moderator for the day, and please feel to ask questions. If there's anything I can help, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Sumit. I mean, it was a nice presentation. I know me myself came in a ITC from a Indian TCS company to Canadian TCS company, and then applied for work permit, followed by PR through CEC, Canadian Experience Class, and then followed by citizenship. We all either came as a student or as a skilled worker. We all been going through this, but this knowledge is very helpful. This will help us not only for us, also for our children, for our parents, immigration matter also. There are a couple of questions which a lot of users have posted. I would like to go through a couple of questions which are generic. If you feel
Yes.
that you'll be able to answer, that'll be great.
I will. Yeah. I'll try and answer as best as I possibly can.
Yes.
Surely,
the first question is, it's a lengthy question. Please bear with me. It is from Preeti. I'm a Canadian citizen. My mother has been here with me since a year on her valid Indian passport. Canadian visitor visa. She arrived in 2020. Her first visitor visa record extension was approved, allowing her to stay extended till January 2021. That is this year. Since condition did not improve in December, we filed another visitor visa record extension then, and are waiting for the response. Now her passport and Canadian visa both are expiring in June. What should be the course of action? Example, applying for an Indian passport extension or wait for CIC response. This is the similar situation where I'm also going through. My parents are here for the last 1 year. I have applied for extension, visa extension, but the Corona situation didn't make me, and then again, I filed one more extension, which is currently in process.
So the question is, okay, there are two parts of this question to Preeti's question. The first part is that the Indian passport is expiring. Am I right? Did I hear correctly?
Yes.
That the French passport is expiring.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So any visa, any extension will only be given till the date your passport is valid. So if the passport is going to expire in the next 1 month, any extension which will come will only be 1 month. You can ask for 6 months, but you may not get 6 months because your passport is expiring. All right. So that's the first thing. Now it's really a catch-22 situation. If you go to the Consulate of India here at Bloor Street, they will say we need a valid, Canadian document in order to extend it, and they would normally do it. They understand it is it is Corona times, and it's difficult. So they might extend the passport by 1 year. Usually Indian passports are now 10 years, I think, and they might extend it by 1 year. But the situation is that you can get a second extension and a third, and even a third extension on parental sponsorships. The fact is, can you go back to India? You can go back to India. But if the extensions have come, then you can stay till the extension, and you could because planes are flying. I went to India at the end of the year, and I went for about 2 weeks because of a family situation. But we went and we came back. Of course, all that all that COVID test and everything else to be done, which you need to do. So the question is, any visa, any permit, any visitor record will only be extended as long as your passport is valid. Beyond that, it will not get extended. Am I answering your question, or is there something I'm missing?
Preeti, you have anything else to ask?
No, that was great.
Preeti can ask actually.
That was really good. Thank you. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Sumit, the next question is from Tushar. Can we apply for a visitor visa for parent while their PR is in process?
Yes, you can. It is a matter of of something which I mentioned earlier, of dual intent. They used to refuse cases earlier if you were applying, if you already had a immigration application in place, and you were trying to get a visitor visa. Sense had dawned upon the immigration officers that because it takes such a long time, to process immigration files, parents want to come in. So you have the options of applying for a regular, tourist visa, or you can also apply for a super visa. The super visa came into effect really when people were saying that, look, we've applied for immigration, we want our parents to come and visit us and our kids, and they can't come because you are refusing them. So they said that, look, you can get a super visa, you can come in here and live for 2 years at a time, and then while your process is getting done. So the long answer to a short question, or the short answer to a long question, is yes, you can.
Thank you so much. That really helps.
Now, the next question is from Tripathi. This is regarding spousal sponsorship. What will be the proof of birth if the birth certificate is not available for an individual?
What is the proof of birth? Well, it could be a couple of things. Some of us don't have birth certificates. For example, I don't have one, and I had to also deal with it. You can do a couple of things. You can do an affidavit. You can do an affidavit from India, because in India, what used to happen is your grade 12 or grade 10 mark sheet had the date of birth. That was the board of that's the board. The class 10 board exam mark sheets used to have it. So you can find other ways in order to prove your birth, because in our time we did not have something called an Aadhaar card or anything like that. Now they do. In India, you can use your Aadhaar card, and maybe that could be another proof of birth. So in the phase that you don't have a birth certificate, perhaps because you had a home birth, or you were born in a village where there was no hospital, or you were born in a place where it was not recorded in that time, you can give a sufficient alternate like documentation in order to prove, because you have your passport. Where did the date of birth come into the passport? It came from some document. It could be a ration card in India, it could be your class 10 board certificate, it could be, now Aadhaar card is very big. Everybody needs an Aadhaar card for everything almost. It could be banking information, it could be an affidavit. So a combination of all the documentation can prove that this is indeed your date of birth.
Perfect. Thank you, Sumit. Moving to the next question. What is the best path for a person in his 40s to come to Canada? What skills, education should he pick up now to be eligible to come over in a year or two?
That's very, a wide question. See, at 40, usually we have figured out what we want to do in terms of a career. People change careers. Either and also immigration is also linked to your certain education which you've had. So, I mean, I read law. You're an IT professional. Srinivasa, if somebody has done general education and has not specialized in anything and still wants to come, the good things I would tell you are trades. Canada has got a massive shortage of people in construction, in the trades is very, very big. So it does not have to be an engineer. People think engineers make more money in Canada than a tradesperson. It's actually the other way around. If you have an issue with plumbing, you call in a plumber, he's going to charge you $125 just to come into your house. You know that. And then he's going to tell you, this is stuck, that is stuck, and you end up with a bill of $600-700, right? In one day. So a plumber in India does not make all that money even in a whole month, what they make in a year, in a day here. So there's a big shortage of certain areas. So if somebody whose education is very general, if they've not studied very much or they want to pick up a skill, they could do a trade skill, learn the trades. It is in demand. If somebody in 40s has done business for it, that matter. I have clients who don't have a lot of education but are doing very well in business. A lot from Gujarat and from Punjab. They could come in on a business visa. They could come in as a provincial nomination. If they have money and they want to invest $500,000-600,000 in a business, that can be done. So you have various options. But of course, it depends on the individual as to what they're comfortable with, how much money they have, what their skill sets are, what is their, I mean, we can't ask everybody to do a business because they may never have done business in the past. So, it really has to be it really has to be done in a way that fits the individual's perspective. But if it's a specific question, you can take it on with me separately, and I'll be able to give some more information to them, whoever has asked this question, once I know a little bit more background about the individual.
Okay, the person is CD. I'm not sure the full name. I hope you got the answer. Moving to the next question from Subhas Biswal. How to bring nephews or niece from India? They are in 22 years old. I think you addressed this question, but I'll ask you to.
Yeah, I think nephews and nieces in that age group are best suited to come in as students. Depending on what they want to study, you could use universities and or you could use these community colleges. See, the advantage with students is that if they've done you have a lot of students who come in right after their high school, after grade 12 in India. So they need to do at least a 2-year course in something. It could be hospitality, it could be IT, it could be coding, whatever they want to do, whatever is their interest. In these colleges, you can do that. Or you could come in for a 4-year course at a university. It's more expensive. The advantage is once they come in as a student, as long as you've studied more than 1 year, if you study for 1 year, you get a 1-year work permit. And if you've studied 2 years or more, you get a 3-year work permit. And that's enough time to help you figure out what you want to do. So if you've done, let's say, you want to do a 2-year course in Seneca College, and you do that course and you get a 3-year work permit and you start working. After 1 year, you get eligible to apply under the CEC. So that's one thing which you could do.
Thank you.
That's for nephews and nieces, because they will not qualify for anything else at this present point. At this age, without any work experience, they will not qualify. Yes.
Thank you, Sumit. Hope Subhas, the question is addressed. Moving to the next question from Joy Maharana. How long it takes now for a parental sponsorship?
20 to 24 months approximately. The processing time is about that much. You will hear some files open up quicker, but the processing time from the time you received your first file number that you've been picked is about 20 to 24 months.
So to this question, I just want to add one more. I think initially they given us a request form, right, where we have to fill the form. But apart from that, have we got any response from them by any chance?
I have got cases which have got who they have asked for biometrics. Or for example, I have a case which we filed when we had filed. It was June 2019, and they wanted document. There was a request for documentation, like like PCCs and all that, police certificates, and all your background. And once that was done, then they asked for your, of course, you do upfront medicals. If they have asked for your biometrics, it's moving ahead. So biometrics is an indication that you're about 5-6 months away from getting the visa. So when they're saying it's about 20 to 24 months, it also depends upon where you've been, how much have you traveled. Some people have traveled to countries where they've not been able to get let's say, a police clearance that holds up certain things. Like in Saudi Arabia, there's nothing called a police clearance. If you do a crime, they'll chop off your neck or your hand. That's your police clearance certificate. So if you've lived there, how do you prove? So the government of Canada knows that you don't have anything called a police clearance from Saudi. You just have a residence permit, which is called the Ikama, and you cancel that and you leave.
Jyoti Bhana, you have any other question? Now moving to the next question from Ramakant Panda. The question, it's a three-part question regarding immigration session. The first is, what is the maximum age limit to apply for a PR? Followed by the second question is regarding English test, the self-PIP 777 mandatory. For example, can 7677 allowed to apply for PR? Followed by a third point is, if someone needs help applying PR in PNP Express Entry, what is the next step?
Okay. There is no maximum age limit to apply for PR. The maximum age or the maximum points you score is up to the age of 35. You could be 38 and have more points than somebody who's 29. It's a combination. When you do the CRS scoring, it's a combination of various factors: education, age, studies in Canada, work experience in Canada. Your English language competence is only one of the things. So there's no maximum age limit. Of course, if you score 0 in your age, because now you're 40 and 45, you have a harder chance of scoring the overall selection. Now, example, you may be 45 and you're a tradesperson and you have worked in Canada as a welder and you're 45 and your English language scores are only, your IELTS scores are only 5 band, you'll get picked. Because number one, you're in trades because the scores are lower. In trades, you don't need 7.7s, and you can 5 is enough. IELTS, general, and you can get picked. So it's very difficult to put everybody in one frame saying that, okay, if you have this, you get it. Every case is a individual sort of assessment, and you have to see what they have, where can they improve, age you can't change, age is constantly progressing. English language, you can. Some people work on their English and make it better. Some people have studied in English, are fluent. Some may not be. That's all right. So, the question I can see is self-PIP 777 mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. For example, can 7677 be allowed to apply? Of course, you can apply. You can apply with 6666. Nobody's stopping you. So long as you make the points in and you get picked in the relevant category. Now, if somebody needs help to apply for PR in PNP and Express Entry, what is the next step? You, of course, need an employer. The provincial nomination is based on a few factors, right? There are 6 factors in Ontario I'm talking about. Every province has their own way of doing it. Now, if you have an employer who is willing and able to support you, it's like an LMI application pretty much, but a little bit more, a little different, but you're doing it with the province. If you have an employer who is willing and able to support your application and you get your 600 points, because the PNP still awards 600 points, you get picked immediately. The other way to do it is you may get less than your points may be, let's say, lower, but when we apply for express entry, Ontario can come back and say, okay, we are interested in this guy's candidature. For example, it happened to me last October. I had applied for somebody's express entry file. He's a machinist with Magna, and I applied for him on a Thursday, and on Tuesday I get a call from Ontario Immigration stating that we are interested in his application. We've seen his profile. We like him. He studied in Ontario. He's working in Ontario. He used to work for Magna, and we want to nominate him. We need a few more documentation. Unfortunately, I got the documentation. In 15 days, he got his PNP. He got 600 points. So he was hovering around 399 because his English was not the best. So it's from 399, he became 999. He got 600 points. He got his ITA. In 4 months, he got his immigration. So things like that can happen. So we will do an assessment and then take a calculated judgment as to whether you get picked or not. It's impossible to say yes or no. Sometimes, because the way the express entry has been set up, the government of Canada and the provinces can see the applications, can see the profiles, essentially, not the applications. Express entry is a profile. It's not an application. It's a profile where the government can say, okay, we need welders. If we apply for welders who have got a lower score in Ontario or in any province, they'll get picked 100%. There's a shortage. Nurses, they can't find goddamn nurses in this country. So nurses, anybody doing PSW will get picked because of the intent shortage. So that is the way to do it.
Wow, that's so much of information. I think I was not aware that welder has more preference than IT professional.
No, it's not. I mean, I'll tell you what, this is how we think in India, where we are from. We do a hierarchy of occupations, and I don't think that's the right way we have been, that's the way we've been functioned. We've been taught because you need to be educated and you do a certain job. So you become an IT professional, you become a lawyer, and the welder is way down. I don't think so. I think everybody is same and equal, and everybody has got a very important job in this society. If your flush is stuck, you need a plumber. I mean, you being an IT professional and I being a lawyer, we can't do anything. We can't even then flush our shit down the toilet, So I think everybody is very important in society. Everybody has got a specific function and a role which has to be appreciated. And that's why Canada and the Western world is a country where your neighbor can be a plumber. He can be a taxi driver. It wouldn't happen in India, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are the positives in this country. And I think it's really a labor market need. It's a labor market need. IT is a labor market need in this country. You still don't have enough IT professionals, like you don't have enough Indian cuisine cooks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough cooks for the number of people. So you have certain things which are in shortage, and they have a very, and this is how it is structured. So an engineer's example, if somebody was an engineer in India, a mechanical engineer, and he wants to come in here, he can't come in as an engineer because he doesn't have the license. He needs to do his PEng and all that circus. He can come in as a tradesperson. He'll make more money as a tradesperson in Canada than he makes in India as an engineer. So sometimes strategy. So that question you asked me about 40-year-old, what can I do to come? It's a strategy. You want to come to Canada and you want to live in this country, do what is required in the country. What is the country looking for? So that's something.
Very well said. Thank you, Sumit. Next question is more specific to spousal sponsorship. I'm not sure how much you will be able to address. You want?
No, I will. I'll try. Yeah.
Yeah. What will be the proof of birth if? Okay, you already addressed this.
I answered that question.
IMM 008 general application form. Do we declare family members of spouse as a dependent, or just add spouse information? I'm applying.
No, the IMM 008 is is the application for your spouse. The spouse in her application is declaring her dependents or her family members in the additional family information form, where it's called mother, father, sisters, brothers. It's another form. It's a one-page form. That's called additional family information. So you declare information as per the form. They will get all the information. They will eventually, from those 5-6 forms, the immigration is able to acquire all the information which is there. But additional family information usually picks up all the information about the applicant who's applying for overseas.
Amit asked the first question. You have not read it.
Sorry?
Yes.
Amit
Actually,
asked the first question.
No, I actually
Amit asked the
requested
first
to put
question.
my
What is the
question
first
at the
question?
end. Jyoti Babu, I requested to put my question at the end. I want to give others chance.
Okay.
So moving to the next part of the same question, I'm applying for PR spouse sponsorship. Can I also apply for visitor visa for spouse interim? And also, what would be the chance of approval under such circumstances?
Okay, the chance is very low, because this again comes back to dual intent. If your spouse is applying, see, it's again strategy. If the spouse already has got a visitor visa, you went and got married to somebody who's got a visa to Canada already prior to her marriage to you, she can come. Nobody's stopping her. You make an application and she can come and stay with you. But if she does not have a visa and you want to bring her in, I will always advise, don't apply. It's almost a sure shot rejection. Doesn't matter what you do. You may be an IT architect, you may be a lawyer, you'll get refused, because the intention, here they are coming back to the intention. The intention of a spousal application is a permanent residency application. It's not a visitor visa application. It is not a temporary application. It is a permanent application. So if the applicant, who's a spouse, is applying for permanent residency, and now she's saying, I just want to visit my husband, that is not true. She's not visiting her husband. She wants to come and live with the husband. So the husband or the spouse should not apply at this present point. The chances of an approval is zero, frankly. The only time it's worked is if you already had a visa from earlier. Then you're not misrepresenting on a file, because you already had the visa from prior to your marriage. See, remember, these forms are very specific. You have to be very careful in answering all these questions. It's just not a form, because one can get into a lot of trouble not answering questions properly, because then it leads to misrepresentation and delay in filing, and then you're in trouble. I would much rather tell somebody not to apply. Wait out the time. You go visit from here. I know you want to be with your wife or your spouse because you just got married, but you got to work the time out. Wait the time out.
Excuse me, sir. I just want to know, under the circumstances of immediate family members visiting the permanent residents or citizens in Canada, right? Is there a chance that because of COVID, we do have less travel and we have work restrictions because our work won't allow us to travel a lot of the times? Is there a case we can make, or there is no possibility in that case as well?
You mean for a spouse? For a spouse or
Yeah.
for a family member?
For a spouse.
You can travel. Nobody's stopping you from traveling. You just have to come back and and stay in a hotel,
Quarantine,
and pay $2,000 and quarantine. Nobody's stopping you from traveling. These measures are put in order to uh, discourage you from traveling. When I came in on the 9th of Jan, there was no, I had to quarantine, but we did not have to stay in a hotel. Then they brought in this hotel. So, see, a spouse who's got a visa, see, again, if there's a spouse who's trying to come in this quarantine time and does not have a visa, and you're trying to apply for a visa, they will not get it. Visitor visas are not being processed right now because of the ban, of the travel ban, right? Now, if you have parents who want to come and they already have a visa, they can come. There's a special form you need to fill, which is called Schedule 6 under the Quarantine Act, and you need to fill that up and get the approval and do all the RT-PCR, COVID test and do all of that, and they can come. But for somebody, a spouse who does not have a visa, they will not. I don't think that they'll approve it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think you should. I tell clients when they have people coming from overseas that let them manage expectations of when they want to come in. You have to tell them it takes time. It's not like it's not an overnight service. You will have to wait, and spousal applications are fast. 6-8 months it should get done in most cases.
So Sumit, on the same line, is it like they are not processing the super visa now?
I've not heard it being processed because super visas are, again, it's a visa after all, right? Only for parents and small thing. I've not done an application in the past 1 year on this, but I'm told the visitor visas are not being processed. Even work permits from India are on hold, except if they're from the essential services. So people in agri-foods, in healthcare are getting it. But if there was something else, it's on hold. But again, it's not a standard thing everywhere. They're focused on essentially these categories.
Thank you, Sumit. The next question is a generic question. Barsa, correct me if I'm wrong. Will immigration lawyers essential in the process of immigration?
As in any case, you can if you've been charged for a crime, you can go into a court and defend yourself on your own. It's not essential. Nobody's saying it's essential, but it's always useful to use somebody who's an expert in the area. Certain things you can do by yourself, and people do it on their own, which is fine. And it's not essential, no. There is no special, like treatment, given to an application if it's done through lawyers. But of course, when it's done through lawyers, it's structured in a way and packaged in a way that it gets it's always useful.
Moving to the next question, can a CEC candidate get an ITA from India?
Yes, they can, provided they have applied within the requirement of the 1 year. So if you worked in Canada for a year or 2 years and you went back 6-8 months ago and you're applying, yes, you can. You need to fit into the CEC case. If you do, then it's fine. If you have an IT, you can come in. So even with the travel ban and you've got your immigration, you can come. Immigrants or potential immigrants are being let in.
Thank you. The next question is, I see without CLB7, we cannot create an express entry profile in NOCA.
Have you tried that? I've not heard this question. I mean, I've not seen it being done. Why should it just be CLB7? A senior manager may not always see a NOC. This NOC is, every occupation in Canada has been divided into 5 NOCs. NOC means a national occupation classification. Every job, whether it's an ice skating instructor to a plumber to anybody. So you have 5 of these categories: NOC O, A, B, and C and D. Now O, A, B, you get immigration. C and D you don't unless you are in a designated PNP list, right?
Hello, Sumit. Hello, Sumit. This is Lalatendo. Actually, in NOC A category, I think CLB7 is mandatory. Without CLB7, it is not allowing to create the profile. Because I am a Canadian experience class, like I have worked 4.5 years in Canada, but due to CLB 6.5, I could not able to create a profile. And I cannot, change the code also. I think NOC B category, you are allowed to create with CLB 5, right? So, but NOC A category, I think 7.
Okay, I'll need to look it up. It's a very specific, question. I will look it up, and if you can contact me and send me a resume. You can always allocate more than one NOC in your application.
No, but because I have applied 5 years work permit with NOC A category, so I cannot change it because it is with the, I got the work permit and still my work permit is valid also. Currently I am in India, but due to so not able to 6.5 I have got, so that's why I'm not able to apply in CEC class. Otherwise I could have got the selection.
Okay, why don't you email me separately, because I need a little bit. See, it's just not one answer. It's just not one factor which will enable you. The NOC and the CLB is going to be two things. There would be other areas as well. So contact me and I'll look over your case and I'll tell you how we can do it if you can.
Yeah, can you tell me your email address so that in the chat?
What I'm going to do is I can try and paste it here. I'll do that.
Yes, sure. At the end of the session, we will share Sumit's contact details to all the participants for your reference.
Yes, so that in future also we will contact him, right? Because right now I'm in India, so but I am trying for my PR. But though I am a CEC class, but due to IELTS, I could not able to put the profile in express entry.
We'll share the details with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
No problem. The next question is it mandatory to have CLB7 for NOC 0213 for express entry profile?
I think that's a similar question as the earlier one, so we can take it on specifically on the.
Sure. One more. It's a continuation of our previous question. This is regarding same parental application. Given COVID times, for a parental application for my parents who is already here, would extension of Canadian visitor visa be considered from here, or it is better to go back to India and apply for maybe a super visa at later time?
See, if the answer is if you can get your extension from here, then it's fine. But if the extension is not being granted for whatever reason, then of course you'll need to go back and apply later again. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that makes sense. That was just a continuation of previous one, because my mother is already here and her passport's expiring and also her visa is expiring at the same time. So we were wondering if I should just extend her passport and also apply for an extension for a visa, or is it better to just then go back and get it all done from there?
See, if you can get your extension, the first operative thing is going to be whether can you extend her visa here. If you can, if you can extend her passport here from the embassy,
got it.
Then that's going to solve a lot of your problems. First question, that's the first part. If the Indian embassy is going to extend it, then you can apply for an extension from here. Because nobody's stopping you from applying for a second, third, fourth extension.
Right. Okay. All right.
The government is not going to penalize you for, as long as you have a reason. You can say, look, my mother is going to be alone there. She's here with us. It's COVID time, and she's safe here. And we have all the reasons. We have all the resources. We have got health insurance for her in place. All of that kind of thing. What do you do for a regular extension? If you've done that, then it's fine. But the passport, as I said when I started off answering your question, is the first thing is going to be that the passport has to be valid. Otherwise, the extension is going to come only up to the date of the passport, and then in that case you'll have to leave. Because also remember, you need a valid passport even to travel.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah, we would have to do it before her passport expires.
You cannot say I'm going back to India with an expired passport.
Definitely. Right.
It could be a problem. Some countries allow that.
Right.
Like Nigeria is going to allow you to come into Nigeria even without with an expired passport. India may not.
Okay. Yeah. No, definitely
then
good to know.
it's going to lead to another problem.
Got it. Yeah, no, this was very helpful. Just a quick follow-up. Like, my thing is, like, if we apply for the passport extension and if CIC rejects the extension of visitor record, and the passport is now with Indian Embassy, can I like figure, like, would they give me time to get the passport back for her to travel?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can travel. If the rejection comes, you usually have, see, there are a few things you need to remember. One is, when did again, it's a very specific question, but I'll answer it nonetheless. If the visa has already been expired, and or the last record has expired, let's say it expired on the 31st of December last year, for example, and you are already sent in for an extension, right? And now you have sent in the passport for renewal, and it's still taking time, and you get your IRCC refuses the application, and it comes back on the 27th of March.
Right.
And they'll say, now that you're out of, we have refused it, and since you're out of status, you have to leave the country immediately. Right? You have 90 days to leave. Either you apply for restoration of status, that you reapply once again and try and fight the case, in a way, fight it out, or you have to leave the country anyway. But there are things you need to do if such a thing happens. You need to apply for a voluntary departure, certificate. It's just not enough to just take the passport and and board the flight and go.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It will have implications later.
Okay.
Because essentially, on record, she would have stayed in Canada longer than her visa, and then it could have implications later at a later time.
Understood. Thanks so much for sharing that, sir. And like, I'll definitely contact you directly as well.
Sure, do that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. The next question is from Amit Naik. I need to know, how can a Canadian citizen apply for US immigration? What is the process? Followed by one more question: how to bring a nanny from India on work permit?
Okay, so the first question is, how does a Canadian apply for a US immigration? You'll need to contact a US immigration lawyer. I have some friends who I can refer you to, and they'll be able to help you. I don't do US immigration. I just do the investor immigration, which is the EB-5s, through a financial institution. I'm not licensed in America. There are many ways of doing it. In the United States has got a much bigger, I would say a plethora of options which you can do, much more than Canada, and you have to look at it specifically. So, I don't think I'll be the best person to answer that question. Nanny from India is an application. Again, there is something called it used to be called the live-in caregiver earlier, and now it's the you can apply if you have somebody. You can apply under there is now a new pilot project for childcare and adult care worker, family members. You can apply under that. It used to be LMI exempt, and now it's become an LMI compliant application. So you'll need to advertise, and you'll have to show that you've not been able to find anybody here, the same way as you do an LMI application. You need to pay them. You need to prove that you have enough financial resources to pay, because it's essentially an application for an employment in a private household. A nanny is like that. So you need to have either young kids or old parents, or old family members, or somebody who needs constant care. That's the first eligibility requirement. Second eligibility is financial resources, which is of course there. And third is of course the person who's coming in. So they need to be at least grade 12 pass, which a lot of nannies may not be, and they need to be speaking in English. And we might think, how is that possible? She's coming to work in my house, and I speak Odia, and she can look after my kids who speak Odia. But that's not the problem. The problem is if you're at work and your wife is at work, and there's an emergency, and she picks up the phone and calls 911, she needs to speak English and not Odia. Okay, so therefore, English is a mandatory requirement. I know it's a great help to have nannies at home, who can cook and clean and look after our kids, but you'll need to find somebody like that. And then It can be done. People, do bring in nannies from overseas. They come in all the time, but you need to also fulfill that they are at least grade 12 and they have done similar experience in India. It's not the typical maid who works in your home in Odisha. In your mind, she may be a nanny, but she's not going to be approved ever. Never ever. She may be the best nanny for you, but she knows your family, she knows your mother, father, all of that, things will not work. You need to meet the requirements of the program. And of course, the employer here has to pay for all the expenses of this process, all the legal fees and everything. You cannot recoup from the nanny at all, even the work permit files and everything. So it can be done. You need to find somebody like that. You have nanny, or if you don't want from Odisha, you want from somewhere else, you'll have people who want to come in. You have nurses who want to come to Canada, who want to come in as nannies. A lot of, people from Philippines are educated and have come in as nannies in this country and have now got their status and they are now doing their own thing. Okay. What's the next question?
Thank you. Thanks for answering that. One more question is from Tripathi. This is regarding a follow-up question on IAM 008. May you please ask the question?
Hello, Sumit.
Yeah.
Thanks for the informative session, Sumit. So
welcome.
The question arises from a confusion. In the IMM 088 form, it says add a dependent. So is the family member of the principal applicant considered a dependent, or if we give the family members in the additional family information, is that all right?
The dependent is only a child of the applicant. So if you got married to somebody who already has got a daughter and a son, that's a dependent. Not the parents, not the siblings, not the brothers. Okay. In a spousal application, you're talking about a spousal application, right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Okay. So when you're sponsoring your spouse, if she does not have a dependent, which means she does not have a child from you or from a previous marriage, then there is no dependent.
Thank you, sir.
Do you follow?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. You could have, it could be a situation where you got married, not you, anybody could have got married, and they already had a child, but they had not sponsored their wife. Now they have, in that case, they have a dependent, which is their child, or somebody could have married a person who had a child from another marriage earlier. That's possible as well. That's a dependent, not parents and all that. No, the parental information and the sibling information goes into the additional family information. All right.
Okay, I think most of the questions we have addressed, unless until if anyone has any other question. Yes. Before that, I got a couple of questions during the pre-registration. Sumita, maybe some you have already addressed. But meanwhile, one question from Pravat Kumar Das is, I am on a work permit and it is valid till 2023. So I want to know the process to get a PR. Okay,
so that is a specific, the question. Contact me.
Okay.
And we can do a consult and we can do an eligibility assessment and I'll tell you how to do it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we can help you with it.
Any other questions before we wrap up? I'll give one more minute before we wrap up.
So I've just sent my contacts. My email is there. Perhaps I can send in my phone number as well. Or Srinivas, you can do it.
Yes, I'll pass that information there. One question from Saswain. Current COVID time, how many months it takes for PR approval?
PR is what? In what category? Any category?
Saswain, may you please?
Which specific category are you talking about?
Yeah, it's PNP.
The PNP is not a PR approval. A PNP is a provincial approval.
Yeah, a PNP on the CC.
No, once again, CEC or PNP?
PNP to apply for CEC.
So you got your PNP.
Yeah.
You already have your PNP approval.
Yeah.
Okay, then it should be about 6 to 8 months. 6 months it should get done.
Yeah, but it says like currently due to COVID, it takes more than a year. It looks like.
Depends on some applications which are done.
Oh, okay.
If it's a paper application, it'll take longer.
Oh, okay.
But if it is not, then you're fine. So
and
just
in addition, in addition, the PNP it was tagged to a company. So now let's say some
PNP is always tagged to a PNP.
Yeah, company.
When it's supported by an employer, it's always tagged to a company.
Company. Let's say somebody file the application, then quit the company. Is it still problem or how it is?
Again, say it again. If you got a PNP from a company and you left that company.
I filed the CC, then I quit the company.
Okay, the company is allowed to withdraw the PNP file for you, and then you will not get the points.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. See, a company is supporting you, right?
Yeah.
So you should at least stay with them.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's very easy. They support and you.
No, not me. If company is quitting the employee, if let's say company terminated the employee.
If the company is terminating the employee, then, depending on what is happening on the application, if they want before the PR is approved, the immigration officer can come back and ask you for another document saying that please give us a letter from that company from where you've got your PNP that they're still supporting you.
Okay.
Points based on the fact that an employer is supporting your application. If that employer is no more there, or they fired you, or you left the company, then that whole math is not working out, right?
Yeah, just I want to get an idea on that.
There's no idea on this.
Oh,
it's going to be you should stick on with the employer. What happens in the United States when you are on these H1Bs? People stick on with them forever. So stick on, man. Get your PR and then leave. Don't do all this. Otherwise, all your PNP points is going to go down the drain. Then you may not even be eligible.
Yeah.
Be careful. Okay.
Thank you, Sumit. I think most of our questions were addressed. I don't see any more questions. Thanks for your time. I think 2 hours. I know you got a very tight schedule. You're still at your office. We try to pull you. Thanks for joining our webinar and giving the valuable information. A lot of questions we have addressed. I'll be passing your contact details to all the participants after our webinar. Along with that, if you can share any links, web links, or any document, then I'll also pass to them.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to you.
Yes,
I'll send you an email with the links after we finish, so that you have it all in one place, and then we can carry on. And thank you all thank you, Amit, for organizing this, and Srinivas, you've been the foundation behind all of this. I really appreciate, and I hope you find the information useful. And if there's any questions and help, I'm happy to help you.
Much appreciated, Sumit. I would like to pass it to our president, Amit Naik, to give a closing keynote. Before that, I want to give a small heads up to all the participants that since this is our first seminar, we want to do a quick survey to understand how we perform, what are the improvements are needed, or any suggestion or feedback is much appreciated. I will share the survey link later after the end of this webinar. Amit, pass it.
Thank you, Sumit, again for accepting our request to do a presentation on affairs that affect our day-to-day life here. We know we have a lot of young people who are single, or they're on work permit, or we have some people like mid-age, they want to bring their parents and all things. So how to do this thing? So thanks to all the participants who are here. Like again, as I said, this is a initiative that CANOSA is taking to bring topics of interest that affects our day-to-day life. So if you have any question, you can contact Sumit directly, or you are free to contact any other person CANOSA is not restricting you on doing anything. It's not the idea, but it's just a more of an informative session. Having said that, we are also holding another webinar on next week, Saturday, which is 13th of March. On 8th of March is the International Women's Day. On behalf, for CANOSA is going to celebrate for the first time International Women's Day and its platform. So we have invited a few distinguished guests to come and present here. So one of them is Duti Chand, who is Indian Olympic athlete. She is coming, as well as we have Madhusmita Patnaik, who is the first Odia pilot, commercial pilot. So they both are joining. We will have two guests from here local also from Canada. One is Mrs. Geeta Das, a very renowned person who lives in Alberta. She is a philosopher. I'm not going much into detail. On that day, if you join with your spouse and the family will know. We'll have our own Sunanda Mr. Panda. She will also join. We'll have some dance, we'll have some songs as well as, so it will be a kind of a celebration of International Women's Day for 2 hours. Next webinar, we are going to have it on, we'll have webinars on different areas, our day-to-day CANOSA activities, but this kind of informative webinar, we are going to have it on 24th of April. Again, we will announce in our email network as well as a social network platform. That particular one will be based on the 16 sanskars, what we call, I know we do not want to be a more communal type or religious type or to a specific religion, Hinduism to be more specific. But just because in our community, maximum people, we are Hindus, so that's why we have arranged a lecture where somebody will come, a priest, a licensed priest will come and give ideas on the 16 sanskars, the attributes of a Hindu life. Because being living in North America, many of us do not know, what are the traditions of a Hindu religion, what needs to be done. Very recently, one of our community member passed away, but his children, they didn't know what to do. We follow 13 days or 11 days we follow, and each day has its own significance. So we do not know. So, it's just an informative session so that people know, some of us who do not know, we will know, our kids will know. So that is happening on 24th of April. Again, we have a community member who is going to speak, as well as we are going to invite somebody from outside as well. Tentatively, we were doing 2 separate presentations. All our future presentations, again, idea is we will invite somebody who is within the community. We will invite somebody from outside the community, so that you get both sides. So that been the case, as Srinivas said, it's a trial that we are doing. If you have any input, please do share. If you want to listen on any specific item, topic of interest that affects our day-to-day life, please suggest us or suggest some speaker whom we can approach and we can invite them. We generally would like to avoid some of the matters which involves one's financial aspects, personal financing, not that we do not want, but that may lead to some wrong decision, and CANOSA doesn't want to be blamed for that. We generally try to avoid that, but if there is a big public demand, we may do that, but idea is we will try to avoid that. So forward to again. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Sumit.
Thank you so much.
Everybody. Thanks,
Thank you for having
everybody.
me.
I think
just one line I contradicted Amit. He said it's a very good thing we are doing on the sanskar, but we are all Hindus. I don't know why we feel apologistic about Hindus. So I am a proud Hindu. So what's wrong in that? Okay. Just one line.
It is not about Hindus. Like, if they want to bring somebody from their community, we will accommodate that. What I'm trying to say is, it's not that, we are only projecting Hinduism here. So we as a community, we are here from people from Odisha origin, but not, I'm talking about Hindu sanskars. Because we are maximum, so that's what, based on that, I'm telling. It's not that we do not want to do other things.
No, if somebody has, somebody wants to bring on the Maulana and teach about the Kalma, we are okay.
Yeah, by all means, yes, I'm agreeing to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Good initiative.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think we are wrapping up the webinar since we have addressed all the questions. Shortly, I'll be sending you the details of our Mr. Sumit Sen and the presentation material. Followed by, I'll be sharing a quick survey for our feedback and suggestion. Thank you all. Have a good day.